This video is brought to you by Wallace Designs, creators of epic experiences. Find out more at wallacedesigns.com.au. Now I want to give a small disclaimer at the beginning of this video. I am not a wargame expert. Now I know that may shock you, as I seem to exhibit such expertise in so many other areas, so what I say may fire the ardour of some of you watching. I get it. It's very frustrating to watch an idiot talk for any length of time, so feel free to vociferously criticise me. I have no issue with criticism at all. In fact, I'll take any human contact I can get. Just make sure that you make the comments section particularly nasty. Most expletives wins a prize. That's not legally binding, by the way. Honestly, these bloody things scare me, war games. I've interviewed Mark Herman a few times and he's a thoroughly nice man, but I've been petrified of his games. That's not to say I haven't dipped my rather shapely toe into war games before. I mean, I loved All Bridges Burning, but I found Pendragon to be punishingly unwieldy. I found the decision to try and simulate everything to distract from the momentum of the game. Abstraction is board games' biggest asset. It's that ability to hint at a concept through mechanisms and allow the pattern recognition abilities of the world's most dangerous great ape to build the muscles, skin and sinew over the skeleton the designer has provided. To be bogged down in endless rules and sub-rules which inevitably end up being dice rolls, well, it seems to disregard the power of abstraction. It seems negligent to throw out game design's most useful tool and replace it with 1,000 conflict resolution tables. What this all boils down to is that I'm not a great fan of granularity. I mean, it could be because I'm stupid though. This is why, up to this point, I've avoided Mark Herman's games. It's a worry that the whole of the afternoon will be spent dissecting legalistic prose rather than playing a game. I've always thrown a coquettish side eye at Churchill. I remember seeing this played at a gaming weekend about a decade ago, and I still remember the intense discussions, the whoops and cries of recrimination. Making too much noise and thrusting my utterly toxic personality on people, well, that's what I love in a game. Still, it took a friend of mine slapping down the money on the counter of the local board game shop and insisting that we endorse his profligacy for me to actually play Churchill. On the face of it, Churchill looks like a standard war game, if you're looking at the one side of the board. There are fronts that need to be advanced and dice rolls to determine if they are. Turn your gaze to the left side of the board though, and the story's different. There is no map there. There is no Panzer division represented by little cardboard chits. What there is a table with 3 seats and 3 tracks starting from those seats and converging in the middle. It tells you that this game is something else. This is a game that isn't concerned with the weight of ordnance or supply lines. This is a game of politics, a game of psychology, a game of staring down the other 2 bastards perched at equidistant points around the circumference of the table, seeing who blinks first. It is a game of negotiation, which I love, and compromise, which I abhor. I'll let you into a secret. I loved Churchill. This bit is going to be vastly abbreviated as there are quite a few rules and this isn't a tutorial. But for context, I'll let you know what the game's about. Players take on the roles of the Allied heads of state at the end of the Second World War. You can be Stalin, Roosevelt or Churchill. The game models the conferences that these leaders participated in at the close of the war to decide the fate of the world going forward. There are issues, to be discussed. These include things like A-bomb research, global political shifts, and where the Allied powers will deploy their forces to mop up the Axis. Discussions are initiated by playing cards. The values on the cards pull these issues along the tracks towards the leader who starts debating them. Their position on the track indicating how much sway that leader is having in the debate. This is a brilliant abstraction that displays its purpose instantly. Pull the issue all the way to your chair without the opposition pulling it back, and you win the argument. Win more issues than your opponents in a conference, and you win the conference, and that gives you points. The second phase of the game resolves the decisions arrived at in the first phase. Forces are allocated and fronts advance with the aim of getting the two main Axis powers, Germany and Japan, to surrender. The manner in which the war is concluded will determine the endgame scoring conditions, and the side that fulfills them the best will win the peace in Churchill. This is a game that is realistic. It is a game that dissects the way that self-interest trumps any grander ideals. The game enters the war when victory is inevitable and all that's left is to carve up the planet in a way that serves self-interest. Britain is concerned with the perpetuation of colonialism, America fostering a global capitalist hegemony, and the USSR wouldn't mind a slice of hegemony itself, but one of a more authoritarian, Marxist hue. There are no parades of heroes or triumph of good over evil. That has already happened. Now we need to get what's coming to us. I came to my first play of Churchill completely in the dark. I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing or how the strategy of the game was supposed to play out. The game is so beautifully structured though that any gamer can learn as they play. At the end of the first conference, you have a handle on the rules. By the end of the third, you realise what you have to do, and by the fifth and final conference, you've become a hardened negotiator, desperately trying to hold on to what you gained. I was intimidated by Churchill, but I needn't have been. Churchill is an intuitive game and, more importantly, an eminently playable game. It's also a game that makes you lift up your head from the table and look into the eyes of your opponents. There's so much think and double think in this one as you try to divine what those other bastards are thinking and how they'll try to execute their plan. Also, the central card playing mechanism is brilliant. It offers so many choices. The cards have their base values, but there are also special powers that you have to deploy at the right time, and if you can yoink that one crucial issue out from under the nose of your opponent when they think they've tied it down. And their frustration is delicious. There is so much conversation in a game of Churchill, so much back and forth. The theme in games comes from feeling like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you feel like you're in a conference here. You feel like your words have import, and you feel the push and pull as you try to work out who's on your side and for how long. And this aspect is truly brilliant. The scoring incentives and the need to work with the other two factions to different extents at different times results in a game that is dynamic and ever shifting. There are alliances in Churchill, but they are febrile and temporary. You need to not feel the sting of betrayal here, but get on with some treachery yourself. This is the real world after all, not just a game. What really struck me about Churchill though is how accessible the game is. There are modern Eurogames that easily exceed Churchill in terms of complexity. Also, it's really bloody fun. There are different kinds of fun in gaming. There is the quiet, deliberative fun of the head-down Eurogame. There is the raucous caterwauling fun of the party game. Then there is the devilish back and forth, the thrust and parry of a game like Churchill. The fun of pulling apart the psyche of the other players around the table. Churchill reminds you of one important factor that can be obscured by the pathé reels and the pins in maps and the worthy academics talking troop movements. It reminds you that wars are fought by people, at any level, and it is the ability of these people to deploy trust when it's necessary and suspicion when it is paramount to end bloodshed. It promises a scenario in which we can work together, that we don't have to subsume our own desires, but we can use our self-interest to serve a greater good. Whatever war we're fighting in our own lives, we can get around the table and hash it out until we come to an agreement. And then there can be peace. Hopefully, we can enjoy it. For watching. You can like the video if you liked the video, you can subscribe to the channel and tell me if the subscribe button down there goes all coloury when I say that. Down below you'll find a link to the best Discord in gaming and to my merch store where there is loads of cool stuff, including this What a Bellend t-shirt. You can even help to make these videos by going to patreon.com/5G4D and backing the show like these lovely people. Right, I'm off to have a conference about getting out of bed later in the morning.